In the last Langstaff letter, we looked at two different worldviews. The secular worldview, which is prevalent in society today, and the Christian worldview based on the authoritative Word of God. In coming issues, we want to discuss how this works out in specific situations, starting today with freedom of religion. While I'm looking at this from the perspective of America, the issues are not limited to this country. Historical background of this. From the earliest days of the Pilgrims in America, freedom has been an important part of society. Indeed, it was the reason why many came to America in the first place. Consequently, freedom has been woven into the fabric of American society ever since. As stated in the Declaration of Independence, we read, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Liberty or freedom is there at the birth of the nation. Now you might ask, what is freedom anyway? In today's society, freedom is the power to do what you want to do, the ability to move and act freely, the power to determine one's actions without restraint. Now, obviously, freedom doesn't allow you to do anything. However, ideally, it does mean that you are free to act according to your religion and conscience. The First Amendment to the Constitution deals with the freedom of religion. It prohibits laws establishing a national religion or impeding the free exercise of religion. This has guided the nation until recent times, when a major attack has come upon the freedom of religion part of it, an attack that comes out of the conflict between secular worldview and the biblical worldview. This is perhaps best seen in the case of Jack Phillips. The Alliance to Defend Fund sums up the case in this way. Jack Phillips, a Colorado native and cake artist, opened Masterpiece Cake Shop in 1993 and has served the community of Lakewood, Colorado for more than 20 years. In his years of business, Jack has been a major part of milestone events for many in the community. He's watched families grow from young couples requesting wedding cakes to parents ordering graduation cakes for their children. Masterpiece Cake Shop is also a family business. Jack's wife is a co-owner of the shop. His daughter helps run it. One of his sisters decorates cakes. Another sister volunteers to keep the shop clean. Now, as a Christian, Jack knows that God can work as he chooses, including using small cake shops like this to do God's work. God has chosen this bakery to do a lot of different things that we have never planned and we should never want to stop. Jack's faith motivates how he operates his business. But he will one day find out that the state of Colorado would order him to strip his faith out of his business. In July 2012, two men came into Jack's cake shop requesting a custom wedding cake celebrating their same-sex marriage. In a very brief exchange, Jack politely declined the request, saying that he could not design cakes for same-sex weddings, but offering to design them custom cakes for other occasions or to sell them anything else in the shop. Shortly after that, Jack started to receive phone calls from people threatening and harassing him because of his decision to not use his artistic talents to design a cake celebrating a view of marriage that conflicts with his faith. Instead of responding in anger, Jack saw the calls as an invitation to prayer. The phone calls give me an opportunity to pray for people I wouldn't know. The Alliance Defending Freedom attorneys and ADF allied attorneys came to Jack's defense, and when the couple filed a complaint with the Colorado Civil Rights Commission for sexual orientation discrimination, and even after explaining to the commission that it wasn't the people that Jack objected to, it was the message the cake would send about marriage, an administrative law judge ruled against Jack in December 2013, saying that designing and creating cakes for same-sex wedding ceremonies are not speech protected by the First Amendment. The Commission ordered Jack and his staff to either violate Jack's faith by designing custom wedding cakes that celebrate same-sex marriages, or stop designing all wedding cakes, which was approximately 40% of Jack's business in addition. Jack was ordered to re-educate his staff by teaching them that he was wrong to cooperate with business consistently with his faith. The state also required Jack to file quarterly compliance reports, telling the government every time that he declined a custom cake request and explained the reasons why. In July 2016, ADF attorneys applied and allied attorneys petitioned the United States Supreme Court to take up Jack's case. After the Supreme Court granted review, it ruled 7-2 in favour of Jack on June the 4th, 2018. The ruling reversed the state's decision to punish Jack for living and working consistently with his religious beliefs about marriage. So now we have a political conflict. For the purpose of letter, it now becomes a battle between the left and the right. Albert Mohler, an evangelical theologian, asked the question, why is the left so hostile to religious liberty? He stated, it's because freedom of speech and religious liberty must give way to the newly invented rights that are now beholden by the cultural left. The left now worships at the altar of the greater set of rights that are foundationally antithetical to the American constitutional order. End of quote. When the gay rights movement won the victory for gay marriage, many thought or hoped that this was the end. In no way the end goal is to reshape American culture by reshaping the family, even to the absolute disillusionment of Christianity in the United States. You can see this agenda in left-wing groups such as Black Lives Matter. Earlier this year, Democratic lawmakers in the House of Representatives introduced the Equality Act. I believe that the Equality Act is currently stalled in the Senate. President Biden has promised to sign the Equality Act. This would, in effect, erase all legal distinctions between male and female in public life. John Stonestreet of Breakpoint Daily writes, to be clear, you should only care about the Equality Act if you're a Christian, or a person of faith, or a woman, or own a business, or go to school, or teach at a school, or are a medical or mental health professional, or especially are a female athlete, or under the age of 18, or ever use a public restroom. Now that's not an exaggeration. Here is the exact wording from the Equality Act. An individual shall not be denied access to a shared facility, including a restroom, a locker room, and a dressing room, that is in accordance with the individual's gender identity. This applies to any establishment that provides a goods service or program, includes a store, shopping centre, online retailer, or a service provider, a saloon, bank, gas station, food bank, service or care centre, shelter, travel agency or funeral parlour, or healthcare, accounting, or legal services. What a list. Along with any organisation that receives any federal funding. So Ryan Anderson of the Ethics and Public Policy Centre described it in an op-ed this way. Medical doctors, secular and religious, whose expert judgment is that sex reassignment procedures are misguided, would now run afoul of our civil rights laws. If you perform a mastectomy, in the case of breast cancer, you will have to perform one on the teenage girl identifying as a boy, all in the name of equality. Now, we cannot remain silent. Franklin Graham of the Billy Graham Association, in an article entitled "We Cannot Remain Silent," writes, "The Equality Act designates schools, churches, and healthcare organisations as public accommodation. With this, schools, churches, and hospitals could be forced to accept the government's beliefs and mandates about sexual orientation and gender identity. That would be highly intrusive and incredibly far-reaching. It will threaten everyday speech where people can be fined or lose their jobs for using the wrong name or pronouns. The Equality Act will legislate that we allow boys and girls sports, boys and girls locker rooms, men and women's shelters, and men in women's prison. It will force teachers and students to publicly pretend that a biological male is a female. Schools will be encouraged or mandated to instruct first, second, and third graders that they can choose to be a boy or a girl, or neither, or both. Having biological sex and science is a relic of the past. The Equality Act will use the forces of law against all 50 states to strip Christians and other religious ministries of their right to hire people of shared faith to pursue a shared mission. Can you imagine a Christian organization being forced to hire people hostile to their deeply held beliefs who have no passion for its beliefs, teachings, and mission? That doesn't work. The Equality Act will strip health professionals of their rights of conscience, and it will force doctors and medical professionals who long to do no harm to engage in gender transition treatments such as hormone blocking, cross-sex hormones, or surgery. It is obvious that a Catholic or faith-based hospital should not have to perform gender transition surgeries that go entirely against their belief. The Equality Act will be a tool used by the government to deny or threaten accreditation to religious colleges and universities if they do not satisfy the demands of secular left to apply sexual orientation and gender identity to dorms, sports, places of privacy, and even teachings. The Act would be used as a weapon to threaten the availability of federal student loans and grants to students at certain disfavored religious schools. So what are those with a biblical worldview to do? Let me suggest a few thoughts regarding how we should respond to this battle in America. One, recognize that it's happening in society today, and that also is happening in Washington and what's in your state house. Then pray. This is a spiritual battle as recorded in Ephesians 6:12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. Know where you stand and why on these issues, and also how you are to act. Some people may also want to reach out to their local representatives. In America, this battle is between the secular worldview and the Christian worldview. It will eventually be decided, as far as law is concerned, by the United States Supreme Court. Until then, the battle goes on. One final thought. We need to remember that we're on the winning side. We win. It could well be that all this is happening around us in society and is part of what is leading up to the return of Christ with the downward spiral of society as painted in Isaiah 60 verses 1 and 2. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to the Langstaff Letter with Dr. Alan Langstaff. The Langstaff Letter is produced by Frontline Ministries, a ministry of Kairos Ministries. If you'd like to join a discussion about this edition, you can go to Dr. Langstaff's blog at kairosmin.org. We look forward to having you join us back again next week. And remember, the best is yet to be.